это срывается так. Слушай, слушай. О, как вкусно. Вот как горох, это хорошо, такая вкусная круглая штука.
Arrive à la cheville de ce film. Rangez les pop-corns, prenez votre bloc-notes et votre heure. Oubliez, vous en apprendrez bien plus avec la vérité cachée sur l'entrepreneuriat. Avec le film La vérité cachée sur l'entrepreneuriat, je prends de gros risques et je ne me fais pas que des amis car je vous dévoile l'envers du décor du business en ligne. Parmi les choses passionnantes et contre-intuitives que vous allez découvrir, je vais entre autres anéantir tous les mythes que l'on vous a insidieusement fait avaler. Voici ici certains mensonges d'entrepreneuriat des plus courants. Créer une chaîne YouTube, mensonge. Lancer une chaîne de podcast, mensonge également. Utiliser le référencement organique quand on démarre. Mensonge. Utiliser à outrance la publicité payante, également mensonge. Créer des tunnels de vente, en veux-tu, en voilà, mensonge. Utiliser des chatbots pour communiquer avec son audience, mensonge. Et utiliser LinkedIn si vous faites du B2B. Devinez quoi? Mensonge. Et bien d'autres encore, aussi farfelus et ridicules les uns que les autres. Trop souvent, ils semblent a priori expliquer la réussite de certains entrepreneurs à succès. Mais en réalité, il n'en est rien. Et si vous les avez implémentés sans avoir de résultats massifs, aujourd'hui, vous êtes plus proche de la faillite qu'autre chose. Mais vous devez impérativement vous procurer ce que j'appelle à la 6e minute du film l'antidote pendant qu'il en est encore temps. Celui qui va vous permettre de passer de 0 à 5 000 euros par mois, qui est totalement différent de celui qui va vous permettre de générer vos premiers 25 000 euros par mois. Et lui-même encore différent de celui que j'ai utilisé pour faire mon premier mois à 100 000 euros. Et puis, il y a celui que nous utilisons pour générer plusieurs millions d'euros par an. Maintenant, si vous souhaitez obtenir votre antidote et découvrir la vérité cachée sur l'entrepreneuriat, il ne vous reste plus qu'à cliquer sur le lien qui s'affiche à l'écran et visionner ce film qui est offert pour une durée limitée. Ne perdez pas votre temps avec d'autres films, conférences en ligne ou webinaires qui ne vous apprendront rien. Ce film a été créé spécialement pour bouleverser votre business et changer votre vie.
Меня зовут Максим Александров. Я развиваю туризм на Шантарских островах, чтобы каждый человек мог увидеть кита. И это было бы невозможно без партнеров, на которых всегда можно положиться. Локобанк для бизнеса.
Вызывает много недовольства и среди пациентов, и среди врачей. Но для того, чтобы привести помещение в порядок, необходимо как минимум 20 миллионов рублей. Ну а днем ранее глава республики поручил найти для поликлиники другое здание, так как в нынешнем ремонтировать уже нечего. А в Можге накануне тушили передвижной медицинский комплекс. По информации пресс-службы Минздрава Удмуртии, вчера в одном из районов города проходила выездная вакцинация. Возгорание началось в отсеке бензогенератора, который обеспечивает подачу электроэнергии. В этот момент пациентов в машине не было. Сотрудники успели вовремя покинуть машину. Заметил огонь и вызвал пожарных один из очевидцев.
По прибытию происходило горение в задней части грузового автомобиля, в том месте, где установлен генераторный отсек. Площадь составила 1,5 квадратных метра. Для ликвидации последствий привлекались от МЧС России 2 единицы техники и 10 человек личного состава. Причина пожара будет устанавливаться.
Этот медкомплекс работал с 2018 года. В результате пожара медицинское оборудование, которое находилось внутри машины, не пострадало. В Минздраве также добавили, что намерены восстановить автомобиль. У грузовика частично обгорела кабина водителя. Сейчас специалисты оценивают ущерб. А в Казани накануне задержали мужчину, подозреваемого в убийстве как минимум 26 пожилых женщин. Этот человек орудовал на территории сразу 12 регионов России, в том числе и в Удмуртии. С 2011 года поволжский маньяк, так окрестили его в СМИ, оставался неуловимым. Как удалось поймать, расскажут наши коллеги из программы «Вести Татарстан».
На улице главная поимка убийцы бабушек сегодня главная новость. Правда, здесь до сих пор не верят, что их доброжелательный сосед, новоиспеченный папа – серийный убийца.
Здоровался. Ну а так ничего не могу сказать. Ребенок постоянно коляску выносит, мама выходит гулять с ними.
В кроссовках, спортивный. Выглядит хорошо.
В этом доме Радик Тагиров жил с супругой и ее сыном, а недавно в семье родился совместный ребенок. 38-летнего мужчину часто видели во дворе с детьми, с пожилыми соседками был учтив, обходителен, как, впрочем, и со своими жертвами.
Возле рынка смотрел, возле магазинов, сумками все и провожал до дома. Иногда звали, иногда напрашивался.
Представлялся сотрудником управляющей компании или социальной службы. Такая доверчивость стоила жизни пожилым женщинам. Мужчина их душил всем, что попадалось под руку. Поясом от халата, шнуром от утюга, подушками. А после рассыпал на полу чистящие средства, чтобы сбить поисковых собак со следа.
Почему именно вы душили?
Тихий, быстрый, без боли для них, мне казалось.
По разным данным, на его счету порядка 30 убийств. Его жертвы исключительно пенсионерки. Ценных вещей из квартир бабушек не пропадало. Убивал душегуб не ради исключительно.
Возле рынка смотрел, возле магазинов, сумками все и провожал.
Тагиров жил с супругой и ее сыном, а недавно в семье родился совместный ребенок. 38-летнего мужчину часто видели во дворе с детьми, с пожилыми соседками был учтив, обходителен, как, впрочем, и со своими жертвами.
Возле рынка смотрел, возле магазинов, сумками все и провожал до дома. Иногда звали, иногда напрашивался.
Представлялся сотрудником управляющей компании или социальной службы. Такая доверчивость стоила жизни пожилым женщинам. Мужчина их душил всем, что попадалось под руку. Поясом от халата, шнуром от утюга, подушками. А после рассыпал на полу чистящие средства, чтобы сбить поисковых собак со следа.
Почему именно вы душили?
Тихий, быстрый, без боли для них, мне казалось.
По разным данным, на его счету порядка 30 убийств. Его жертвы исключительно пенсионерки. Ценных вещей из квартир бабушек.
Душили.
Тихий, быстрый, без боли для них, мне казалось.
По разным данным, на его счету порядка 30 убийств. Его жертвы исключительно пенсионерки. Ценных вещей из квартир бабушек не пропадало. Убивал душегуб не ради денег. 9 лет назад его чуть не задержали в Волжске в момент преступления. В квартиру неожиданно вернулся сын одной из потерпевших, но убийца смог убежать через окно. После этого, как полагает следствие, выбирал жертв, живущих только на первом этаже. Но и такая осторожность не помогла. Сотрудниками уголовного розыска МВД России совместно с коллегами из Татарстана, а также сотрудниками ФСБ России подозреваемый был задержан.
Все эти годы работы по его розыску не прекращалась. Фигурант ранее судим по статьям 158 и 222 Уголовного кодекса Российской Федерации.
Орудовал серийный убийца Радик Тагиров не только в Казани. Похожие преступления совершал в Мариэл, Удмуртии, Башкортостане, Свердловской области. Составленный фоторобот транслировали на всех телеканалах Поволжья. За его поимку была даже объявлена награда 3 миллиона рублей. Это было еще в 2010-2012 годах. Потом почти десятилетие затишья. Оперативники даже думали, что душегуб погиб или сел в тюрьму. Вычислили его по ДНК. При исследовании вещдоков в Екатеринбурге на забытых преступником платке и зажигалке нашли следы пота. Они совпали с генетическими данными, которые обнаружили при расследовании убийств Поволжья.
У него получены образцы биологического материала. По делу назначен комплекс необходимых экспертиз. Следователи планируют выйти в суд с ходатайством об аресте фигуранта.
В ближайшее время Радику Тагирову изберут меру пресечения. Эльмира Исмагилова, Алмаз Хакимов, Рамзиль Мигранов, Вести, Татарстан.
С нового года в Удмуртии заработает новая мера поддержки многодетных. По инициативе главы республики семьи, родившие третьего и последующего ребенка, начиная с 1 января, могут получить выплату в 240 тысяч рублей. Единственное условие – многодетные должны быть признаны нуждающимися в улучшении жилищных условий. Сумму можно внести как раз на первоначальный взнос по ипотеке, либо потратить ее на строительство собственного дома.
Очень важно как раз эта приставка строительства жилого дома. Вы помните, что все остальные меры в основном выделяются только на ипотеку. И здесь могут ее использовать только городские жители. Вот впервые у нас могут использовать эту меру и сельские жители. Мы называем это региональным материнским капиталом.
В 2021 году на эти выплаты заложено 75 миллионов рублей. Так что по подсчетам министерства воспользоваться ею смогут порядка 300 многодетных семей. Кстати, улучшить свои жилищные условия за счет регионального бюджета могут и пары, в которых появились тройни. В этом году таких семей пока только 3. Общая сумма выплат составила 5,5 миллионов рублей. В Ижевск вслед за другими городами России прибыли первые «Львята». 6 низкопольных трамваев, оборудованных по современным стандартам, планируют вывести на 10-й маршрут. Всего в столицу Удмуртии поступит 16 вагонов. Техника приобретается по федеральной программе. Один «Львенок» обойдется казне в 47 миллионов. Впрочем, обновление коснется не только трамваев, как сообщили сегодня в столичной администрации наши корреспонденты.
Сейчас я играю с флуоресценцией и могу уже вам продемонстрировать это все на экране.
В лаборатории геномной инженерии все, что скрыто, теперь можно разглядеть детально. Микроорганизмы окрашивают в яркие цвета, а на стереоскопическом приборе их видно в 3D. В мастерской уверены, все это поможет в разработке эффективных препаратов, например, таких, что сохраняют здоровье буренок и наполняют молочные реки.
Анализируем, какой патоген вызвал как раз-таки появление маститов. В дальнейшем есть тоже в голове уже такая, и ребята подсказали, и наш ветеринар подсказала, проанализировать воздействие различных групп антибиотиков на подавление этих патогенов, чтобы в дальнейшем рекомендовать уже как раз-таки ветеринарам, в какую сторону двигаться, что быстрее.
А это мастерская ветеринарии. Особая гордость – робот-дуэр. Для района это вторая подобная установка.
Много всяких данных, да, выдает аппарат? Что еще? Вот, вес, была, не была, еще что?
Мы видим все параметры по молоку. То есть мы видим
жирность,
жир, белок, да, в потоке мы видим лактозу.
В Асановском аграрном техникуме теперь работают 5 новых лабораторий. Оборудовали их по нацпроекту образования. Учебное заведение выиграло многомиллионный грант.
В данном колледже практически получается, я сегодня подсчитала все составляющие, 47 миллионов 600 тысяч рублей. Это вместе с федеральной составляющей, республиканской, личными, внебюджетными средствами учреждения.
В этом году новые лаборатории открылись в 3 среднеспециальных учебных заведениях республики. Главное требование Министерства образования – в СУЗах должны появиться новые профессии из списка ТОП-50. Здесь со специальностями уже определились.
Прежде чем открыть эти новые мастерские, мы пролицензировались по 3. Для нас они новые специальности. Это электрификация, автоматизация в сельском хозяйстве, эксплуатация и ремонт, эксплуатация сельскохозяйственной техники и ремонт, это по ТОП-50. И 3 специальность, это у нас была технология переработки сельскохозяйственной продукции.
Когда откроется набор в такие группы, пока неизвестно. Вопрос
хватило на полное обновление материально-технической базы по мировым стандартам WorldSkills. У столяров новые станки и столы, у маляров покрасочные инструменты и строительный фен, у сантехников специальные обучающие стенды. Уже в середине декабря именно на них студенты-строители будут сдавать промежуточные демо-экзамены. В середине декабря инструменты и строительный фен, у сантехников. Этот техникум, как и остальным строительным техникуме, теперь...
Афанасьев, Вести, Удмуртия.
В Ижевском строительном техникуме теперь тоже есть новые мастерские. Этот техникум, как и остальные, выиграл федеральный грант по национальному проекту образования. Средств хватило на полное обновление материально-технической базы по мировым стандартам WorldSkills. У столяров новые станки и столы, у маляров покрасочные инструменты и строительный фен, у сантехников специальные обучающие стенды. Уже в середине декабря именно на них студенты-строители будут сдавать промежуточные демо-экзамены.
Мы должны почти 50% студентов-выпускников к 2024 году провести через демонстрационный экзамен. Это их дипломные работы. Конечно, это чемпионаты WorldSkills. В этом году уже Удмуртская республика поднялась на 14-ю строчку из 85 регионов. Это очень большое достижение профобразования. И, конечно, надеемся на более высокие результаты.
В следующем году новые лаборатории и кабинеты появятся еще в 2 колледжах: Ижевском, медицинском и социально-педагогическом. До 2024 года в Удмуртии должны заработать 500 современных мастерских. В Малопургинском районе накануне отметили День матери, пусть и позже, чем все. Зато теперь на одной из стен Пугачевского ДК появилась трогательная надпись с признанием в любви к самому близкому человеку. Над ее эскизом и оформлением трудились региональные активисты молодежки ОНФ и ученики старших классов сельской школы. Похожие граффити сейчас появляются по всей стране. Основная идея, говорят общественники, выразить чувство к матери через любимое дело.
Рисуем такую надпись, которая олицетворяет любовь к своей маме в первую очередь и любовь к тому делу, чем мы занимаемся. То есть все равно ту любовь к нашему делу прививает наша мама. Поэтому мы таким образом признаемся в любви к маме и своему делу.
Такие же акции накануне прошли в Пермском и Краснодарском крае Самарской области. Всего в ней приняли участие более 50 регионов России. Всего 500 экземпляров. В Удмуртии выпустили книгу о бабушках из Буранова. Автором стала бывшая администратор коллектива Мария Толстухина. Она объединила уникальные фотографии из личных архивов артисток, их и свои собственные воспоминания. Что получилось, увидела Людмила Спиридонова.
Жили-были в одном Удмуртии.
And at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you guys the exact method I use to get my scales this fast. All right, let's go. Super jacked, beat my record, 113, beat it by 2 seconds. If you guys want to learn the exact method that I use to get my scales this fast, there's a bunch of like really simple steps to follow. There's a bunch of little, it's just like practice strategies. Like there's a quick thumb method, there's the over-under technique, there's the add and note strategy. And basically like there's a training plan of 5 to 10 minutes a day you do before your piece, and every day you do a certain exercises, just like, you know, a workout plan. If you're trying to get buff, you do certain workout exercises. There's like a scale workout plan, and I wrote an ebook on it that's up on Amazon. It's $2.99, so if you guys want to get it, and if you get it in the next month,
На Wildberries жилеты Браун со скидками до 40%. Создавая образ из Браун 7 серии, которая адаптируется контуром лица. Используй жилет Fusion Pro Glide для идеально гладкого бритья.
You do not have to be perfect to do what I do, you just have to have a calling, a desire to help people.
What's up guys? I'm Zach Evans, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to develop left and right hand independence. A lot of you guys have been emailing me that
тебе надо? Чего тебе надо?
זה לא עוד סרטון, זה החיים שלי, של טובי. ואם אנשים יתעלמו מזה, אז אני פשוט לא אוכל לחיות. אני אשאר ככה. שלום, אני טובי ואני בת 12. זה התחיל לפני שנה שהתחיל לכאוב לי הרגל. ובהמשך זה גם עבר לי לכאבי בטן. אני רק בת 12 ואני מרגישה לפעמים...
Last week, the Supreme Court of the United States had their say on New York State's capacity restrictions, which restricted the number of attendees allowed in places of worship, but not other government-deemed essential businesses. Justice Gorsuch in the ruling said this as he rolled back Governor Cuomo's restrictions on places of worship. He said, quote, "It is time, past time, to make plain that while the pandemic poses many grave challenges, there is no world in which the Constitution tolerates color-coded executive edicts that reopen liquor stores and bike shops, but shutter churches, synagogues, and mosques." Behind me, you will see displayed images of Democrat hypocrisy playing on loop. Show Governor Gavin Newsom of California dining both maskless and indoors at the fancy French Laundry restaurant despite severe lockdown restrictions against indoor dining for the very people he governs. You'll see Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot celebrating in the non-socially distant streets of her city. You will see Speaker Nancy Pelosi indoors at a hair salon in San Francisco when salons in California were only open for outdoor services. And you will see CNN's Chris Cuomo staging his emergence from quarantine in a made-for-television moment, coming out of the basement, and this was after Cuomo was spotted breaking his brother, Governor Cuomo's quarantine rules to go for a bike ride in the Hamptons. Also notable is San Francisco Mayor London Breed, who followed Governor Newsom's lead in dining at the French Laundry with a group of 8 people. And finally, Los Angeles County Supervisor Sheila Kuehl dining outdoors at her favorite Santa Monica restaurant after voting to ban outdoor dining at 31,000 restaurants throughout LA, calling outdoor dining a most dangerous situation. Quite clearly, these Democrats do not follow their own edicts. They act in a way that their own citizens are barred from acting. Governor Cuomo's decision to impose restrictions on the size of religious gatherings was rebuked by the highest court in the land. But what was Cuomo's response? Instead of showing deference to the Constitution, he attacked the legitimacy of the court. Governor Cuomo said this, "You have a different court, and I think that was the statement that the court was making. We know who he appointed to the court. We know their ideology." Well, in fact, the ideology of those on the Supreme Court who made the decision to support the First Amendment are in favor of freedom, the Constitution that survives even during a pandemic. This statement from Governor Cuomo strikes at the heart of the issue. Democrats seek control. These images behind me make clear Democrats' mindset. Rules for thee, but not for me. The president stands with you, your freedom, your ability to decide how to best protect your health. We all know how to protect ourselves from COVID-19, wash your hands, socially distance, wear a mask. But as one federal court put it, there is no pandemic exception to the Constitution. And with that, I'll take questions. Welcome back, Kristen. Good to have you back.
Thank you so much. Good to see you. Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to ask you about comments that the Attorney General made to the Associated Press. He said, quote, "To date, we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election." Given that, why has the press Trump concede?
So first, he went on to say this. It was in an AP interview where he made that initial comment. But in that same AP interview, he went on to say that he thinks a lot of people are confusing the use of the federal criminal justice system with allegations that should be made in civil lawsuits. And he discerned the fact that, he said, quote, there's a growing tendency to use the criminal justice system as sort of a default fix-all, and the campaign's litigation is all civil litigation, which is apart from something that the DOJ would be involved in.
Follow up with you on that of more than 40 cases that have been brought by the president's legal team. The majority have been denied or dismissed. The election results have been certified in all of the battleground states. Does the president still think he has a path to win?
The president has said that he believes all legal votes should be counted and all illegal votes should not be counted, and in fact the campaign is pursuing that litigation. I can't get into the details of that litigation here, but they still do have active cases in Nevada and Wisconsin.
But how did he overturn the results when they've already been certified in these battleground states?
Again, the president is just looking for every legal vote to be counted, and I will leave it to the campaign to pursue their end.
Does he have faith in Attorney General Bill Barr? Does he still have confidence in Bill Barr?
The president, if he has any personnel announcements, will be the first to know it. We'll go for Janet.
Hi, thank you. Two questions. Has the president then spoken to Attorney General Bill Barr since these comments came out yesterday?
I'm not aware if they've spoken. I know the Attorney General was here yesterday for a pre-planned meeting with the Chief of Staff, and they discussed an array of issues, but I'm not aware if the President has spoken to him directly.
And is the President considering any preemptive pardons to any of these kids? Has he talking to Attorney Giuliani about this?
I've heard no mention of any pardons in any conversations I've had in the White House other than the pardon of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, a 3-star general who I've discussed from this podium before, who had his life ruined. He was a valiant hero who served his country both on the battlefield and then came to work in government. And what happened to him was there was an FBI note that said they wanted to get Lieutenant General Michael Flynn to lie. There then was a criminal leak of his identity and a phone call he had. He was told no lawyers were needed in the discussion the FBI was having with him. FBI investigators then after said they did not think that Lieutenant General Michael Flynn was lying, but yet he was still pursued in an unjust manner, and the government failed to provide the original FBI 302s from that interview. It was an egregious miscarriage of justice, and we're finally glad that justice was served for a war hero, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. David.
Is the President planning to announce his 2024 candidacy in a formal event here at the White House before January 20th or even on January 20th?
I've not heard any discussions of that. I'm aware of the reporting, but the President's campaign is currently pursuing active litigation, and that is the focus, at least at the moment.
You heard his comments last night. It sounds like he's planning to run again. Do you know if that's the fact?
I haven't spoken to him about that again. His campaign is pursuing litigation. I would redirect you to the campaign. Yeah. Yes.
Mark Meadows has been meeting with Commissioner Hahn. What is being discussed, and also did the White House get a heads up that the UK was going to be approving the Pfizer vaccine?
I'm not aware of any heads up that we were given, but what I will say about Dr. Hahn is it is par for the course for the Chief of Staff to meet with him as we're trying to save American lives with the vaccine in record time. In fact, 2 vaccines, not only a vaccine in record time. You heard Monsef Salawi say a vaccine normally takes anywhere from 4 years to 25 years. He said that in an interview last week, and this was in 10 months. It's remarkable progress, but we still want to make sure that it comes as fast, as expeditiously, but as safely as possible, because we know that each day that passes, there are more American lives at stake. So we want to make sure it comes out as quickly as the data allows it to, and we will have 40 million doses by the end of the year, which is a tremendous achievement, not just to have gotten a vaccine in this time, but to have produced 40 million in advance. It's having a businessman as president. It's the Trump vaccine. Yes, Justin.
Thanks. I had a couple of
Hi, in this lesson we'll learn an easy method to play several thrilling jazz sounds. We'll use the melodic minor modes, but for a start we'll not think about scale.
Let's get to the top story this morning. The Attorney General acknowledged something that has been clear for weeks. There was no real voter fraud in this election. Bill Barr, in a rare...
Melania Trump, First Lady of the United States and the only Trump family member who's already in prison. You might remember that the last time Melania made news, it was because an ex-friend of hers leaked a recording of her, which made her sound a lot like a Slovenian Scrooge.
I'm working like a my ass
I know.
With Christmas stuff that, you know, who gives a about Christmas stuff and decoration? But I need to do it, right? Right?
Okay, I think we can all agree that is not a good look, especially in America. The only decorations Americans love more than Christmas are those candles that smell like desserts and those bowls of dry flowers that look like a snack. They are not a snack. Those bowls of dry flowers that look like a snack. Or those candles that smell like desserts. And those bowls of dry flowers that look like a snack. They are not a snack. So, after that leaked recording came out, it was obviously important that this year, Melania made it clear that she really, really does give a about Christmas. And it looks like she rose to the occasion.
And she may have less than 2 months to go in the White House, but Melania Trump is decking the halls. Today, the First Lady unveiled this year's White House Christmas decorations, and she avoided any controversy with a traditionally festive look.
Just released video from First Lady Melania shows the halls filled with festive decorations. The theme for her final holiday season at the White House is America the Beautiful. Each room has its own color scheme, and the Christmas trees are adorned with crafts made by children from all 50 states.
There are plenty of traditional style decorations of trees with white lights and red ornaments. There's also a village hospital to honor frontline workers amid the pandemic.
На Wildberries жилеты Браун со скидками до 40%. Создавая образы с Браун 7 серии.
Oh, they even have a little ornament hospital. Given how crowded the real hospitals are right now, that one better get ready to start taking tiny patients. But on the real though, I think that's a beautiful tribute to healthcare providers. I mean, it is a little strange that the Christmas decorations acknowledge COVID more than the administration has, but still, it is something. But at the same time, I kind of feel bad for Melania. Yeah, because I think she was right in the first place. No one cares that much about Christmas decorations. And before you say, oh, you do, yeah, say that. But you have one tree. She has to decorate the entire White House. If you had to decorate 100 rooms, you'd also end up being like, F these Christmas stuff. But now, because she was busted, Melania has to be more Christmas than even Mariah Carey. Are you happy, people, now? It looks like Christmas threw up all over my house. And you can tell this thing got to her because she definitely went more traditional this year with the decorations. I mean, remember 2018? Those Christmas trees that she dyed with goat blood? And 2017, that was even crazier. She just spray painted Santa's Not Real on the walls. That was pretty out there. But let's move on from the Trump administration to another endangered species, sea turtles. Because contrary to popular belief, being a turtle is not easy, my friends. I mean, yeah, that shell keeps predators out, but it also makes it hard to let anyone in. But luckily this week, some of these little guys caught a little break.
Well, it's not only people who flock to Florida. In cold weather, 40 sea turtles were flown to the Florida Keys from Cape Cod yesterday after suffering what's known as cold stunning after they were exposed to frigid water for too long. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtles are considered a critically endangered species. A group of private pilots called Turtles Fly 2 donated their time, aircraft, and fuel to help the cold-blooded creatures recover. The turtles will be returned to the ocean in time for mating season.
Tell me that is not adorable. These turtles were freezing, but now because they're in Florida, they're nice and warm, and they all have STDs. And did you see them getting put into that banana box to fly? Oh, they look like a little bunch of Spirit Airline customers. Spirit Airlines, even the turtles don't get enough leg room. I will say though, the Spirit Airlines, even the turtles don't get enough leg room. I will say though, this whole flying them somewhere else is going to make a lot of other animals jealous. There was probably a duck migrating that looked in the plane like, oh hell no, I gotta fly myself? In fact, I'm a little jealous. I mean, I'm freezing my ass off too, but nobody's flying me down to Florida for free. I also want to go spread COVID in the club. I will say though, this story really gives you an interesting insight into our society. Because if a turtle gets flown down to warmer weather, they call that preservation. But if an Instagram model gets the same thing, she's called a hoe. Double standard much? Moving on from the ocean to the desert, and the big mystery that has everyone talking.
Okay, this week I'm going to look at an exercise you can use if you're just beginning to get into cocktail piano. Now, I've talked about cocktail a couple of times in the past, and every time I do I get loads of comments from people saying, you know, more cocktail piano, we really like it, which is cool, because I really like cocktail piano as well. Some people are a bit sniffy about it, a bit down about it, you know, they call it elevator music and Muzak and all the rest. But it's a really fun style to play, and it's really kind of forgiving, and it's actually quite a good way of getting into slightly more challenging styles like jazz. Okay. So if you're not sure what cocktail is, then you should look at the earlier videos I've done, because I kind of talk about it there, and I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll include some links. In this video today, I'm going to look at an exercise that helps to develop two really basic skills for cocktail piano. The first one of those is getting confident with using a very large area in the right hand sort of region of the piano. Yeah, that's because cocktail does a lot of jumping and running and that kind of thing, and you're often using very high notes and very low notes at the same time. So it's really important that you've got a good confident command of the whole of this stretch of the piano. Yeah. The other thing the exercise helps you do is develop your confidence with extended chords, particularly sevenths and ninths, which give cocktail its very distinctive sound. Yeah. Okay, the foundation of the exercise is very simple. It's a really straightforward chord sequence, which I've used before. It's just 4 chords: C, A minor, F, and F over G. Yeah? I'm using F over G instead of a straight G chord, because the whole point of cocktail piano is it's cool and chilled out and laid back, and a straight G chord to bring us back to the C would be, you know, too kind of neat and tidy, too kind of obvious. So instead we're using that chilled out F over G as the dominant chord, yeah, to bring us back to C. If you're a bit shaky on the basics of harmony, if you're not sure what I mean by when I use a term like dominant, check out my playlist of videos on really basic harmony. Okay, because I'm going to assume that you know at least the basics of harmony when I'm talking about this today, because yeah, again, I kind of don't want to repeat myself, so I'll include a link to that playlist. So just to repeat that chord sequence: C, A minor, F, and F over G. All we're doing in the left for today is playing single root notes. Yeah, don't want to do anything complicated down there, so just C, A, F, G. So if you're still learning your chords, just get confident with that sequence for a few times before we start the exercise. Okay, stage 1 of the exercise is to do this. Okay, I'll do that again. Yeah, so as you can see, all I'm doing is playing the simple left hand and the chords, but instead of playing each chord once, I'm going up an octave and up an octave, and a couple of times up an octave more. Yeah. Okay, I'm probably just going out of shot there. Don't worry, you're not missing anything important. Okay, I'll do that again. So as you can see, all I'm doing is playing the simple left hand and the chords, but instead of playing each chord once, I'm going up an octave and up an octave, and a couple of times up an octave more. Yeah. Okay, I'm probably just going out of shot there. Don't worry, you're not missing anything important. Okay. And that's to get used to moving our chords gradually and gently and elegantly up the piano. And when you're doing that, what you should be aiming to do is to hit each chord nice and smoothly and elegantly and confidently. Yeah. What you don't want is to be sort of looking for it. Where is it? Oh, it's there. Where is it? Oh, it's there. You don't want to be bashing it. You just want to hit each one nice and gently. Okay. Until it's kind of second nature. And I'm not remotely worrying here about anything like rhythm or beat or whatever, because the whole point about lounge music, cocktail music, is that it's kind of chilled out. You can really pull the rhythm of songs around. So we're not worrying about that kind of thing today. We don't have a strict beat to keep to. We can just play these chords in a nice kind of chilled out way. Okay, so that's stage 1. And if you find that a little bit tricky at first, just play it lots and lots of times until you're there. Right, stage 2, we're going to extend the chord. So instead of playing basic triads, we're going to play 7th chords like this. C major 7, A minor 7, F major 7, F major 7 over a G. You can probably hear we're beginning to develop that very sort of quintessential cocktail style there, very sort of chilled out sounds. C major 7, A minor 7, F major 7, F major 7 over G, and then just do exactly the same thing you did last time. Focus on getting a very kind of elegant, smooth sound. Okay, so when you're hitting the chords, there should be, each note equal, confident without being bashy or harsh, and just, a nice rich sound. And again, do it again and again and again until you're really confident landing on those 4 notes. Okay, so that's stage 2. Stage 3, we're going to extend the chords again, this time to 9ths. So that was C major 7, that's C major 9. Yeah? A minor 9 rather, F major 9, and then we do the F major 9 over G. If 7th and 9th and all that kind of thing are really new to you and you just find you're copying me rather than working them out from scratch, I have videos on 7th and 9th chords. Dig back in my timeline, they're some of the very earliest videos I made. There were kind of too many to link here, but if you go right the way back in my YouTube listing, you will find 7th and 9th and things explained. They're also explained in my book, which I'll talk about at the end of the video, as usual. Okay, so the tricky thing about 9ths played in those configurations is that it's difficult to play one with one hand. Yeah. So what we do is knock off the bottom note because we're already playing that in the bass. You know, we don't need to worry. In C major 9, we've already got one C going and down here, so we can just play those notes, and we've still got the 9th chord. Yeah. So C major 9, A minor 9, F major 9, F major 9 over G, and just do exactly the same thing. You can really hear that rich cocktail kind of sound now. Yeah. So C major 9, A minor 9, F major 9, and F major 9 over G. There we go. Okay, that was stage 3. Practice and practice and practice. Stage 4 is to kind of mix and match your chords and play around with different inversions. Again, inversions are something I've talked about in the past, and you know you'll find lots of videos about me talking about them. So if you're not sure what an inversion is, dig around in my channel, search my channel, and find some of those videos about inversions. What kind of thing do I mean? Well, you might do something like this. Yeah, and just play around and play in different configurations. Come up and down. Generally sort of muck around. If you're getting really adventurous, you can begin to arpeggiate the chords. It's a little bit trickier, but you know, if you are more confident on the piano, you can try doing that. What I'm doing there when I'm arpeggiating, I'm not going all the way up because you're all in one go, because that's difficult. I'm playing each inversion twice, or 3 times sometime. Yeah, sometimes. Okay, so there we are. Very final stage. Do it in different keys. Work out the sequence in different keys. Say an E flat. And there you go. And each time we're looking for that very smooth, elegant sound, lots of confidence in the right hand. Yeah? And if you get that all that stuff going well, you'll find that when you begin to work out individual songs, your hands begin to kind of do it naturally. You know, a lot of cocktail piano is just about playing chords up and down the piano in different inversions to support whatever melody you happen to be playing, if you're playing one. Yeah. If you develop this kind of skill for playing chords up and down a lot in different inversions, all you really need is a chord sequence, and you can play pretty convincing sounding cocktail piano. Yeah. When I was a student, I used to play loads and loads and loads of weddings. And half the time I wasn't even playing a real song. I just mess about with a particular chord sequence, and you know, it was cool. It's really easy and it's really forgiving if you make a mistake. But it's not really easy. It takes a little bit of mastery. But once you're good at it, you can get away with all kinds of horrific mess ups, just because it's such a kind of cool, chilled out way of playing. Okay, there we go. Lots of people keep asking me if I'll write about cocktail piano, and I will do one day. There will one day be hopefully a cocktail piano ebook, probably quite a short one. but I've got so many projects on the go at the moment, it's not going to be for a little while. I would hope later this year I will get that done. While I'm on the subject of books, I should just mention the one I've already got out, How to Really Play the Piano, the stuff your teacher never taught you. If you're unsure about, whoops, just unstick pages there, this is quite an old copy. If you're unsure about stuff like chords and how they work, you'll find them, the whole first part of the book goes into explaining chords and how to stick them together, which is classically the stuff that if you have had classical piano lessons you won't have had explained to you, because it generally comes much later on. But if you're going to become a decent pop or cocktail or jazz piano player, you have to understand how chords work. So there we go. As usual, any questions or comments or suggestions, stick them in the comment thread. I've got a huge backlog of comments to get through at the moment. If you've left one and haven't replied, I'm sorry. I will be soon. I'm about to go on holiday for a few days, middle of this week. So if you email me and I don't get a reply for a while, that's why. Apologies. I will get back to you soon. Okay, so hopefully that was useful, and I will see you next week.
What's up guys, Johnny May coming at you with a quick 1-minute tip, and today I want to talk about 3 exercises that you can use to practice cocktail jazz piano. Now when it comes to cocktail jazz piano, oftentimes students will learn the basic chords in the left hand and then a basic scale in the right hand, and then they're just basically told, well hey, just make up some lines with this scale. But in order to make up lines, you need to know how to practice creating lines, and so that's the idea behind this lesson. I'll be teaching you 3 amazing exercises that will help you create more interesting lines when you're improvising in the cocktail jazz style. So let's go ahead and dive in. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to solo over the most common progression used in jazz music. We talk a lot about this in our courses at pianowithjohnny.com, but the first progression you really should learn if you want to play cocktail jazz is called the turnaround progression. Okay. It's not only a great progression to listen to, but it's also used on lots of different songs. So when you start playing jazz standards from lead sheets, you'll be able to just jump into the solo comfortably. Alright, I basically put together 2 ways that you can play this, one for beginner jazz students and one for more intermediate jazz students. The first is called beginner shells, and basically here's the idea, is we're going to take our 4 chords in the turnaround and we're going to play this very simple root to chord in our left hand, just using 3 notes. It's really, really simple. Okay, go ahead and play this with me. First chord is C major 7, C up to E and B. Okay, this is the 3rd and the 7th of a C major 7 chord. Okay, and this is what I call the stride ballad pattern. Basically, it's a root chord pattern. All right. Next chord is an A minor 7. We're going to grab this A root below, G and C on the right hand, really nice. This is the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. These are called chord shells. If you want to do a deeper dive on this topic, we have courses on chord shells. A D minor 7 is going to be here. D up to F and a C, that's the 3rd and 7th, and then the G is going to be F and B, the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. Okay. Now, when you're playing chord shells, it's important to put your chords near each other. Notice that we don't have to move that much between the chords. This is called good voice leading, so this is something to be mindful of. All right. We also have a backing track. You can practice this with the track. This is what it sounds like. Here we go. Really, really nice if you kind of want to practice playing with a bass player, a little drummer, and just kind of lock in that feel. Okay, really, really nice. By the way, the backing track is downloadable at pianowithjohnny.com, and the sheet music you're seeing on the screen is also downloadable. Plus, you can change the key with a couple, basically 1 click. You can put it in any one of the 12 keys. I'll put a link to that below. I do want to move you on to the intermediate advanced approach. If you have some experience playing jazz, you want to play more interesting chords, and I want to teach you these beautiful rootless voicings. Okay, so the rootless voicing, C chord is played like this. Okay, this is called a C6-9 chord, okay, and there's no root in the chord. It's a really nice way of playing a C major chord if you want to play jazz. Okay? A minor chord is the next chord. We're going to play it like this. This is called a B voicing. There's no root in the chord, there's no A, but you add a really colorful note, the 9, which is quite nice. Okay, next chord is called the D minor 9 chord. Okay, there's no root, but we have a 9 in the chord. Really, really nice. 3, 5, 7, and 9. And then the final voicing is called a G7, but we're adding some notes to this. We're adding a 9th and a 13 to the chord. Okay, these are called rootless voicings. If you want to learn more about these, you can check it out, deep dive on the concept at pianowithjohnny.com. But this is a really nice way, again, of kind of laying down a nice foundation for when you are improvising in the cocktail jazz style. Okay, again, you can play with the backing track. Go ahead and try playing along with me, and then we're going to dive into the 3 exercises in the right hand. Okay, here we go. 2, and here it is. A minor, D minor 7, G7, okay? Really nice. You can add little swing notes, little 5-1. See that in my left hand? 5-1. Basically, before each chord or before each root, you can go to the 5 and then to the 1, and that's a really nice way of playing it. You can also change your bass notes to be lower or higher. If you want to go for a really low bass note, that's fine. Generally, I recommend to students to stay in this chord range from E to E if you want to play bass notes. This is a great bass range. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this lesson, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel here, hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this. Now, I want to get to the most exciting part of this lesson. This is called the gospel scale. This is a scale I use a ton. We have tons of courses on this topic, and this is probably one of the most universal scales that you can use if you want to play basic or improvise over virtually any style. Okay, here's how the gospel scale goes. This is also called the major blues scale, in case you were wondering, but I like to call it the gospel scale. Is a great term there. Okay, here's how the gospel scale goes. That's your gospel scale. Okay, the notes here are C, D, D sharp, E, G, and A. Okay? From this point, if I want to continue the scale, I go back to my thumb on C, and I just play this up the piano. Okay, make sure your thumb hits the E, and thumb is always on the C. Okay? You can practice this up the piano, you can practice this down the piano, thumb on the E, cross over finger 3 to the E flat, and then finger 3 to the A. Okay, that's going to be the key. Going down is your finger 3 crossing over. Okay, before you get into the exercises, I would just familiarize yourself with this scale. Kind of come up the piano like this, and just get comfortable and try to build some speed, looking for those cross over points and the cross under points. Okay, you just play it on your own and just get comfortable with the notes. You want to see these notes light up. Okay, now, let's get into exercise number 1. This is a simple exercise. If you're more of a beginner in jazz, this is an 8th note exercise. And you know, when you're improvising cocktail jazz, guess what type of note you're playing the most often? It's an 8th note, okay? Sounds like this. Okay, I'm playing pretty much all 8th notes. You really need to have this technique down. Here's how the exercise goes, guys. We're gonna start on C. We're gonna go basically play the gospel scale up until we get to a high C. We're going to hold there and then come down. And we're going to hold here, okay? That's it. It's a very, very simple exercise. And what it's doing is it's helping you practice using all of the notes of the piano while you're playing the accompaniment, okay? So once you have the scale, you have that 8th note.
Сейчас скажешь, что он запомнит. Ну, кстати, да. Может, да, каждый по-своему психотипу, да. Как свои девятки. мужчина все-таки, да, не женщина сам с тобой любовь. Чем так самой делал? Чем так у него что он теперь? Ладно, кому не учить? Надо еще, нет? Типа нет. Нет, нет. Кто-то. Опять что это нет и себе. Зачем? Выйди здесь. Как это так? пошел.
Policy things, but first I just wanted to go back to what you said about personnel. Right before the election in a rally, the president suggested that he might fire Dr. Fauci after the vote had happened. And so I was wondering if you could comment on what Dr. Fauci's status is, and if you have any.
Yeah, I've heard no discussions of that. Dr. Fauci's still hard at work on the task force.
And then there were two things that the president mentioned as policy goals that would happen before the election that we haven't seen any sort of obvious progress on, so I wanted to check in on those. The first is the $200 Medicare prescription drug card that was supposed to happen before the election. It seems to have sort of vanished, so I was wondering if you could give an update on that.
Let me follow up with the chief of staff on that. I haven't heard any current discussions about it, but I will follow up.
And then he had also promised an immigration order, an executive order on immigration that would protect dreamers. Again, he promised that before the election. Do you have any
He put forth many different immigration packages on HB1 visas and others to protect American workers. I'll circle back, but there were many iterations of immigration news prior to the election.
Is that work progressing at this point, or have you sort of thrown in the towel?
I think right now the focus is making sure that there's stimulus relief for Americans who are hurting right now. So that is the current active policy priority that we are working on moment by moment, along with COVID. Yes.
Clearly, as demonstrated by the large red ribbon out here in the White House, yesterday was World AIDS Day. The president issued his proclamation yesterday, but consistent with his previous three proclamations, omitted any reference to LGBTQ people, even though they bear the brunt of HIV/AIDS. The president included a reference to racial and ethnic minorities, so why not LGBTQ people?
The president honored World AIDS Day yesterday in a way that no president has before, with the red ribbon there. And I think that he commemorated the day as he should have.
That doesn't explain why there's no reference to LGBTQ people in the proclamation.
Charlotte, go ahead.
Thanks, Bailey. I wanted to ask about Section 230. Is President Trump willing to allow a government shutdown over that in the National Defense Bill?
The president has made clear the importance of 230, and I would point you to his tweet about how that pertains to the NDAA. One thing I would say, when you look at 230, just to explain for the American public exactly what that is, it's essentially a shield that is given to social media networks because they claim to be the public square. But in the case of Twitter, Twitter has become a publisher, choosing to fact check certain content. And when you're a publisher, there are certain responsibilities with that. You should not be immune from liability. And when you look at what Twitter has done, on the Ayatollah Khomeini, we were just looking at his Twitter account before coming out here, and just a few weeks ago, the Ayatollah Khomeini of Iran tweeted, quote, "Why is it a crime to raise doubts about the Holocaust?" Something not worthy of a flag by Twitter, which is despicable when you think about it. Also, the Ayatollah has tweeted that Israel is a deadly, cancerous growth that should be uprooted and destroyed, something that Twitter did not deem worthy of flagging or blocking in its entirety, and in fact, Twitter executives defended that move in front of the Knesset. This is a very important issue, one that there's even bipartisan agreement that something needs to be done. So the president will be unashamed in fighting against that kind of vitriol that we see and very hateful language that Twitter is publishing.
Thank you, Kaylee. Just one more question about Section 230. The Democratic chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, he put out a statement essentially saying that these two things are not related, Section 230 and something as big and important for our national security as the NDAA. So I just want to be clear here, is President Trump seriously considering and talking about vetoing the NDAA over Section 230?
Yes, the president is serious about it, and I noted, when you have other world leaders that are making calls for genocide and Twitter not finding that worthy of flagging or blocking. Beyond that, you look at China, who's putting out disinformation. China tweeted out, I believe it was 6 days ago, I think it was November 25th, that COVID-19 did not originate in Wuhan, something that was not deemed worthy of flagging by Twitter. There are real grave concerns here, and the president stands by that. And it also is worth noting that the president will always defend our military, ensure that we get adequate defense funding, as he's gotten $2.9 trillion so far, but he is going to put the pressure on Congress to step up on this.
And one more question about Attorney General Bill Barr's comments. I believe you said that you're not sure if President Trump and the Attorney General have spoken since he made those comments, was that right?
Yes, I'm not sure if they've spoken.
But can you at least tell me, was President Trump upset when he heard the Attorney General say that he has not seen or the DOJ has not uncovered evidence of widespread voter fraud enough to overturn the outcome of the election?
I haven't spoken with the president specifically about AG Barr or that comment. And I would also just point everyone to the revised, or the supplemental, I should say, not revised, comment that was put out by AG Barr in the wake of media reporting that seemed to misconstrue his statement. He said that some media outlets have, not he, I should say, the DOJ spokesperson, some media outlets have incorrectly reported that the department has concluded its investigation of election fraud and announced an affirmative finding of no fraud, and that is not what AP reported nor what the AG stated. I think a lot of the media didn't read beyond that one comment to the civil part versus the criminal part.
Well, I think maybe the discrepancy is, you have members of the Trump campaign coming forward and saying that there is hard evidence of widespread voter fraud enough to overturn the outcome of the election, and then you have the nation's top law enforcement officer, the Attorney General, saying if there is, he hasn't seen it.
Well, the Attorney General was speaking to what has come before his desk, and again, I point you to the campaign for specific questions on this, but I would just say generally they are pursuing civil litigation, which in fact the Attorney General explicitly said some of this is meant more for civil litigation, which is what the campaign is currently pursuing. Kevin?
Haley, is the president seriously considering skipping the inauguration?
I'll leave that to the president to make his announcement. He tweeted something to the effect of he knows what his decision is and he'll make his decision.
What rationale could he possibly have for skipping?
I'm not going to speculate on the president's decision. I'll leave that to him to announce it.
Just one follow-up. There was a report yesterday on federal officials investigating a potential bribe for pardon scheme. Has anybody at the White House been questioned by federal law enforcement officials regarding potential bribes for a pardon?
No, and in fact, a DOJ official said yesterday that no government official was or is currently a subject or target of the investigation disclosed in this filing. Yeah. Andrea?
So thanks for my question. I wanted to ask about FBI Director Wray. Though it looks like President-elect Biden wants to keep him in the job, does that change the president's perspective on FBI Director Wray, and does he retain full confidence in him? And I have just a quick follow-up.
Yeah, he's made no assessments, and at least in my presence, about that, and if we have any personnel announcements, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. Can I just follow up on the vaccine issue? You said 40 million doses. I recall the president saying, and perhaps even you saying, that you were looking for 100 million doses by the end of the year. That 40 million is quite a bit short. So can you just clarify that number?
So there are currently 6 vaccines that we have identified as vaccines that we were hopeful would come to fruition, and with several of those, if not each of them, I can follow up with you on the exact number. We have manufacturing contracts. We have manufactured doses with several of these, but they have to come to completion. So with each new vaccine that comes, along with that will come millions and millions of doses that have already been manufactured in time. But currently, of the 4 vaccines in phase 3 clinical trial, Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Janssen, 2 of those have gotten to the point of applying for an EUA. So really, it's incumbent on the manufacturer and those going through the phase 3 clinical trial to get that data to us, and then it's manufactured and ready to go. So the moment someone else gets to a 94% effectiveness rate or whatever the barometer is, we will have those doses. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee. I have just 2 quick questions, Georgia officials have said election workers there are facing threats because of the president's false claims about winning the state and his rhetoric throughout the election. Does the president condemn threats against election workers, or does he take any responsibility for those threats?
We condemn any threats against anyone. There's no place for violence. What I will say, though, too, is that the president's lawyers, they were doxxed by a left organization. Their private information put out, so we're seeing that happen to people on both sides of the argument, and there's no place for that ever anywhere.
And then just real quick, the CDC director today said that the next few months could be among the worst public health months in American history. I wonder, does the White House, is it setting a good example for the public for the White House to hold in-person holiday parties at a time when the CDC and other organizations are asking Americans to forego those kinds of celebrations for their own safety?
Yeah, so if you can loot businesses, burn down buildings, engage in protest, you can also go to a Christmas party. You can celebrate the holiday of Christmas, and you can do it responsibly, which is why the East Wing has noted that they'll have a smaller guest list, masks are going to be available, social distancing is going to be encouraged, hand sanitizing stations, among other measures. But we will engage in the celebration of Christmas, and there will be a Hanukkah celebration as well. Yes, Meredith.
Thanks. Does President Trump, has he had any kind of conversations with allies on Capitol Hill about challenging Joe Biden's electoral college votes? With Congress, we saw one of his allies today said he plans to do that. Is that a conversation that the president's had at all?
Not that I'm aware of. Enos?
Oh, yeah. The White House Coronavirus Task Force is privately telling governors that Americans under the age of 40 who gathered with people outside their households at Thanksgiving are dangerous to others and should isolate immediately. Why is the White House not publicly sharing that same information with Americans?
You said that was in a what document?
The White House Coronavirus Task Force is privately telling governors
that those Thanksgiving celebrations.
That Americans under
there's
40, yeah.
There's CDC guidance out there as to when you should and should not isolate, so I would point you to that. That's all been publicly available since the beginning of all of this. Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee. So if some version of the defense authorization makes it to the president's desk with language that terminates Section 230, would he sign it into law, even if there's language in there that renames bases bearing Confederate, names or named after Confederate officials?
Yeah, he's said before he's very much against the Warren Amendment, and public polling is with him on that. How that intersects with the 230 tweet, I will have to follow up with him about. I don't know if that position has changed, given what he tweeted recently, but I will follow up on that.
And then on China,
yes.
Joe Biden told the Times that he doesn't want to roll back the China tariffs or the phase one trade deal. You know if the president plans on reaching out to Mr. Biden to talk about, China trade, since it's been such a hot policy issue, or any other policy really, before January 20th?
I'm not aware of any plans of that at the moment, but if I do, I'll let you know. Yeah. Meredith.
You gave some examples of, lawmakers who've been talking about COVID, but I am curious, where has President Trump been in offering public leadership on this topic of the coronavirus, especially as we've seen cases surge? We haven't seen the president make any sort of public comments or even tweets about this surge in cases. So I'm curious what sort of examples you have.
Yeah, quite a bit. I mean, he's created the greatest testing system in the world. He gave a press conference about 2 weeks ago, I believe, on the vaccine, which he has done at warp speed because he's torn down bureaucratic barriers. He's been hard at work. He's done, I don't know how many coronavirus task force briefings from this podium, but the work he's done speaks for itself. The fact that now the case fatality rate in this country is 2%, it was 6% in April, and what that means is it's a testament to our therapeutics. Another thing that happened recently, in fact, mid-November, got almost no attention, but it's again a testament to the president, is the two new therapeutics. They are renditions of, one is a monoclonal antibody, another one is a Regeneron therapeutic, and these two therapeutics are given to people with mild to moderate COVID symptoms that are at high risk for severe COVID or hospitalization. So the fact that we've got to the point where we now have therapeutics we can give you in advance to try to prevent you from going to a hospital, and we've sent out 169,000 vials of one and 36,000 vials of another just in a few weeks. He's hard at work at this with the task force behind the scenes. And when we talk about his public leadership, just on COVID generally, I think it's a fitting time, given your question, to note Dr. Fauci now says that we should keep the schools open. He said that this Sunday. This is something the president has said for months. It caused me to go back to July and look at one of my briefing books from July 16th, 2020, and what I found in there.
What's important is the student understood that in a very personal, internal way, and that's what you want. You want this kind of personal, internal understanding. So the repetition is important, but I think it's also the reason why you shouldn't minimize unless the student can do something right from the get-go, because unless the student has a sense of what it means to have a perfectly free rotation in this kind of larger, magnified way, it's not going to work well when you start to minimize. So what does minimization mean? Taubman once said that rotation is really the internal adjustment of the forearm in the direction of motion. That means when you're playing to the right, the forearm adjusts internally to the right. When you're playing to the left, forearm adjusts internally to the left. We don't see these internal adjustments, but we can feel the result of them. So when we're looking at the process of minimization, we're looking to internalize the feelings that one has gained through this process of rotational training. Now, the minimization is more than about just making the rotation smaller. And I feel like this is a place where people stumble needlessly. That the larger rotational motions you see, let me just demonstrate that for those of you that may be unclear about what I'm talking about. So if I'm using my forearm to put each finger down, then that is a large visible rotation. When we minimize that, it becomes something other than a small version of that. In other words, it's not just a small version of clicking from finger to finger. That's part of how you get there, but it is more than that. So if I'm stumble needless, smaller, and I feel the process of rotational training, the internal adjustments, but we can feel the result of them. So when we're looking at the process of minimization, we're looking to internalize the feelings that one has gained through this process of rotational training. Now, the minimization is more than about just making the rotation smaller. And I feel like this is a place where people stumble needlessly. That the larger rotational motions you see, let me just demonstrate that for those of you that may be unclear about what I'm talking about. So if I'm using my forearm to put each finger down, then that is a large visible rotation. When we minimize that, it becomes something other than a small version of that. In other words, it's not just a small version of clicking from finger to finger. That's part of it's not just that, it becomes something other than a small version of that. In other words, it's not just a small version of clicking from finger to finger. That's part of how you get there, but it is more than that.
So this is something actually to keep in mind, that we work so hard on connecting the forearm to the hand, because there's usually no forearm, there's a piece of wood there. that doesn't give. So we work very, very hard, and we leave the fingers out of it for a little bit. That's the process with people who come from playing fingers alone, you know, all the isolated fingers. So sometimes it goes, and it goes up to a certain point, and then you have to awaken the fingers a little bit, sometimes not. Because when you're turning, and everything is turning together, very often it just kind of brings the finger motion with it, but sometimes it doesn't. I didn't do it with him, with other fingers. I'm very careful to go, and we all are, you know, when we're in this process, to understand that when we introduce something, it can always go a little bit too much. So I just work with him. The other fingers seem to be.
Тебе надо, себе они говорят просто, себе они тебе говорят.
Okay, but the thumb was stiff. So now that the forearm is moving much better, I introduce, as you turn, to move a little bit the thumb. Thumb moves from here, and of course it's connected all the way to the elbow, but the feeling of the thumb moving freed it up and also makes it easier to move across to get there, and then to play, you know, to play the thumb right up. So now that the forearm is moving much better, I introduce, as you turn, to move a little bit the thumb. Thumb moves from here, and of course it's connected all the way to the elbow, but the feeling of the thumb moving freed it up and also makes it easier to move across to get there, and then to play, you know, to play the thumb right after the crossing.
Il faisait nuit noire et nous étions allés nous promener.
Quel est le meilleur moyen de rajouter un zéro à ton chiffre d'affaires à une vitesse record? Je te propose de bénéficier.
Hi, in this lesson we'll learn an easy method to play notes. But for a start, we'll not think about scales and theory at all. Instead, we'll start out being very practical and we'll learn to play right away. Before we get into it, let me demonstrate the jazzy sound we can make when mastering this lesson. Right now I switch between different melodic minor modes, and in that way I add different nice flavors to our C bass note. The really great thing is that I use quite a simple method to do all this. Very soon I'll show you that method. My name is Oliver Prehn, by the way, and this is a new jazz lesson.
Feel 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Notes, don't play them straight. 1 and 2 and 3. No, it's swung. 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, once you got that, you can add that left hand in, and here's how it comes together. And then we take it down. I'm using some simple chord shells in my left hand. You can also use the more advanced voicing. Okay, really, really nice. Okay. may have heard me do a little slide there. We're going to talk about slides here in a minute, but you want to be really, really comfortable with this eighth note scale. Once you can do it up and down the piano, then try to make up some little lines using eighth notes. Here's how I might improvise over this. Notice the lines have a start and an end point. This is really, really important as you create lines. If you guys want to do a deeper dive of this topic, by the way, we have the Jazz Ballad Soloing Challenge at Piano with Johnny. I believe this is an hour to 2 hour long course where we do a much deeper dive on how to create lines. But I want to teach you exercise number 2. This is a triplet.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of Piano TV. So, the topic for today is the mysterious squiggly line that you might sometimes come across in your music. It sits above your notes, it might be with the letters TR and then a squiggle, and you're kind of like that actually. They're there too, and you can probably get sheet music. Usually, this means there's like a tiny little music staff written above the actual music staff with the like C sharp to C.
Всем привет, это Денис Шевченко из Первого Лада. Сейчас
When you give a gift you make yourself, it can be anything. Custom and personalized and the perfect fit.
But I wonder how many of you return to your in Pianist Magazine issue 78. Now, I think we all know the value of slow practicing. We appreciate that we need to practice slowly when we're starting to learn a piece because we simply can't play it at speed.
Не трогай, это на Новый год. Хотя уже можно. Skillbox приготовил для вас бесплатно.
Exercise. Here's the sound of triplets. Okay, they really move a lot more, and this is a really important note value to have in your playing. Okay, how do you practice triplets? You're going to play 3 notes per beat up the piano using the gospel scale or the major blues scale. Here's the feel. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You're going to do a hold there and bring it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Those are triplets. Okay, 3 notes per beat. Once you have that down, add the left hand. Here's how you'd play it with the more beginner left hand. We'll go slow. Okay, and down. Okay, notice I throw that little quick 5-1 in. Okay, that quick 5-1 lines up with the 3rd triplet on every beat. Next, I want you to try improvising with triplets, okay? So again, you want to create some nice simple lines. Remember, a line has a start and an end point, so you want to leave a little gap between your lines. This is how this one would sound. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Okay? And you can mix this with your 8th notes. Guys, I want to teach you the final exercise. This is an exercise that uses slides. Okay? Now, when I play this style, I love to slide notes. Okay? And how do you practice slides? Well, this is a slide scale exercise. What we're going to do is practice slides up the piano and then down the piano. Okay? Here's how it goes. Basically, on your gospel scale, okay, you're going to slide the E. I like to use 1 finger for my slide. And then you can slide the A. Okay? And you can just play these up the piano, E and A. Okay? Now, what you want to do is play the scale using slides up the piano. And here's how I do it. I slide the E with 2. Thumb on the G, slide the A with 2, thumb on the C, slide the E with 2, thumb on the G, and you play this all the way up. With a hold on E, and then we bring it down. Makes sense? Now you can use other fingering. You don't have to use this fingering. Sometimes I'll go 2, 3, 2, 3. That's fine, okay? It's just a bigger jump, okay? So you can use whatever fingering feels more comfortable to you, and then once you have that down, go ahead and play it with the left hand. Here's how it would sound. Okay, and then you can go ahead and play with the backing track, and this time try improvising with it. Okay, here we go. 2, here we go. All right, guys, this concludes this week's quick tip, and if you enjoyed this lesson, I want to encourage you to check out pianowithjohnny.com. We have over 600 step-by-step lessons in cocktail jazz, Latin jazz, jazz swing, improvisation, blues, a ton of other styles, theory, technique. Also, check out the Piano with Johnny membership. This gives you unlimited access to our entire course library. Plus, you get to be part of our live monthly events, including our live workshop lessons, our live Q&As, where you can ask me your questions, our student assessments where you can send me a video of your playing and I'll give you personalized feedback. We do weekly challenges for our members and we have an amazing community. So go check out pianowithjohnny.com and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.
Я ложусь 2 часа. Что за 2 часа? Как это так? 97 500. Что это такое? Я не могу.